Hey, Tim. From Linda Michelle. Hey, Caitlin.
She said you were ready.
Hey, Max.
So nice. Here's a port. Cottage here.
It's about to fall. It's gotta go. It's going.
Hold on, I was just really, really excited. I'm helping you. I know.
Here, we need to put something on it.
It actually goes back to the couch. It's just so pretty.
It's so nice. It's so nice. Hey, Pasado is really fun.
Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I was there.
Yeah,
What's going
I-
on?
I did not get to go. It seemed like it was a direct conflict. It seemed like it was last year too, so.
Yeah, we didn't know until
It's hard to know.
Gloria told us.
It's hard this time of year. You know, to not conflict with something.
Yeah, especially since we planned it out so far ahead. We
Yeah.
were like, it'll probably be fine. I don't know anyone that would do an event on the Thursday, on the 15th.
Yeah, everybody was. Well, we had the Lake County Community Fund thing, then they had the city council thing. And then there was also a piano recital at St. George. And it was also, Colorado College was doing their Christmas party
It was,
and the Posada, all those things.
what I heard, they all went well though. So.
Oh, yeah, the three I got to go to were all just delightful.
Yeah.
The piano recital was actually, you never know what kind of talent youth in your city has until you go listen to them. They were pretty impressive.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fun. I didn't get that. I didn't either. Except for. You get cold out of it.
Well, I've heard. How cold is it supposed to get tonight? It's not that bad tonight. It did tomorrow night, it really drops.
Yeah.
Wednesday night is first for
Okay.
Tomorrow night. Nice. With the dust.
6:45, I'm telling you.
Yeah, is that the over under or what?
I think if I were you, I'd bet the over. But no, tonight should be, I don't see any big show stopping. Hopefully it'll go smoothly.
Yeah, which are for the HBC and
And P and Z,
PNC.
yeah,
What happens with the city council?
well, it didn't apply to city council, we should, because no one was up for election.
What happens?
For elected officials, we can only change their pay before an election year.
Oh, that year, so it's not here yet.
Right. The next election for city councilors will be next November. So we'll have to do that. We actually have to make that change like by August of next year.
Ordinance?
I don't think so. You'll notice this ordinance doesn't reference an amount. That's done in resolution. So if we were smart enough to do that the other time, the last time we did it, we only have to do it by resolution. To change the thing.
Did everybody get their snacks? 2 minutes. I have 2 minutes. I need to go ahead.
Chocolates.
Yeah.
Did you open it?
I did.
What have
I
you?
looked at it. Was the chocolates?
I've got one for you in here.
Can I get some water on your?
Chocolate. Oh, considering, I don't think anybody's done it since like, you got out of council. 1976.
No, 88.
So nobody's changed it since 88. That's pretty awesome, actually. 88. It's a long time.
Okay, we have Shannon. We have Tracy. Up on Zoom.
Mayor, you also asked Shannon if she hears okay. She mentioned she's asking others on the sound quality of the like this. And of course, we're not on Zoom, we won't know.
Shannon, can you hear me okay?
So I can hear you. I wouldn't say it's great. And since I'm not typically on Zoom, I didn't know if the sound quality was typical.
Well, we can hear you clear as a bell.
Excellent.
Might check on your computer, see if you have you can turn the sound setting up on your computer. I'm just.
Yeah, I feel like I have it.
Possible.
I feel like I have it turned up as far as it'll go.
Okay, good, thank you.
I'll keep trying. I'll pay attention.
So we have Tracy, we have Shannon. I don't see Dana yet. Lori, if you see Dana pop up, let me know.
Remember the iPhone is with the 9.
I don't know if that's still valid.
Is this still valid?
I don't know what it is. Oh, yes, in fact, who has her drink?
I spelled a very good one.
I know, I see it. Next year, hang on to it,
Next year and hang on until next year?
and you better hope it's the same color, be the same color next year. Okay, everybody about ready?
Ready when you are, John.
In that case, at 6:02, this city council meeting of December the 20th, 2022, I call to order. Got you, Seth. Roll call, please.
Brent. Councilmember Grant,
Present.
Councilmember Jency,
Present.
Councilmember Luna Leo,
Here.
Councilmember Phil,
Present.
Councilmember Loretson,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Green,
Here.
Oh, good.
Mayor Lobby.
Here.
Everyone.
Excellent. Before we get started, would somebody go remind them that where to, I could work. Way ahead of us. Good stuff. Okay, at this time, I would ask for approval of the agenda. Anybody have anything they'd like to change to the agenda?
I think there's only one notation that, there is item B on the agenda is also item D, so the fuller description is at item D, so you can consider those the same.
And we'll probably do them with item D and leave that item B out.
Yeah.
That's okay. All right. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda, please.
Jim, second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. We have ourselves an agenda. Housekeeping matters, anything anybody would like to talk about briefly before we get rolling? I do want to mention the city hall is closed next week for the 26th and 30th. It could be a working closure depending on what people need to do, but the public would only have access to us over the phone.
We're just gonna put a note on the front door that says if you waited until the week between Christmas and New Year's to get your building permit.
One question. Does anybody know about the grooming situation at the golf course?
I do not. I checked with Sterling about the CMC trails, but they haven't been able to groom because there's not enough snow. So I haven't been out to the golf course, but I'm gonna guess there's just not enough snow for them to.
Well, I've heard, I can't remember the guy's name that started with the cross country ski council.
Dan.
Has done it the last few years, but I've heard that maybe he's not doing that this year.
I heard the same thing from him, but that was a couple of months ago, so I don't know what the status is.
Something I do also with, and I don't know if my forces set on, it comes to liability insurance, somebody showed up on National Forces and Lands. And it's a Lake County owned, like, they don't have a permit to do that. And so Dan as an North Council doesn't, so the county has to actually have some sort of liability insurance to do those types of snow trail permits out there. So it could be hung up there. I'm certain might be grooming. They're not grooming it all right now, just no. I don't know what's happening.
I hadn't heard, but I know they were taking memberships online, probably a month ago.
Okay.
I did, but I don't know what the status is. I want to thank everybody who was able to attend the city party. I've had such a good time. Just a great way to hang out and if you have drink tickets still left over, bring them next year. And the last thing I'll say is the Christmas concert at the old church the other night. Boy, you know, that if that doesn't get you in the mood for Christmas, I don't know what does. It was fantastic. Right?
Yeah, I was there. It was great.
It was great. Anybody else with housekeeping matters? Okay.
I had a great time, so I had to drop off early there.
Oh, that's okay. It was nice of you to show up, you know.
The classes on flag volleyball. Fortunately, that was where I had to go.
I'm so sorry.
I know.
Is it because of the drink tickets?
No.
Okay, all right, just checking.
One of our better players, and so we didn't show up as much as we wanted to.
All right.
But then I would also have to say afterwards, I was able to go over to break and they had an amazing second annual, I believe, right?
The
Chris?
Posada?
Yeah, so
Yeah, it was really nice to see the community out. and
That's great.
involved that way.
Have a big turnout?
yeah, about 163 people.
Wow. Nice,
So we're happy. It was definitely a big success for us.
excellent. All right, thank you. At this time, we would entertain public comments on items that are not on the agenda. If anybody in the public would like to speak to city council, please come up, give us your name and address, and you have 3 minutes. Sue, are you up?
Johnson, and I live at 229 East 8th Street. And it's my understanding that in your packets, there is the letter that I had written to Chapin. And also an email to Christian and Tracy. I see Christian here, I'm not sure where is Tracy.
She's up on Zoom.
It's up there, okay. Anyway, I found out when the city sent me a letter telling me that that there were an application for short-term rental right next to, or 2 doors from my house. Now, I've got to tell you, first of all, we've got Kitty Corral around the corner on one end of the block. We've got the railroad depot on the other end of our block. We've got the Eagles behind my sister's house in her block, which is where this short-term rental, and then we've got Freight 1 block behind. We are covered with traffic. And quite frankly, we don't, I mean, I've got signatures here and I can get more, but that's not gonna happen until after the new year. Folks, we read there, we know that our need in Leadville is for long-term rentals so that we can have people here to work at Pizza Hut, which is outdoors. Maybe open up Taco Bell, which can't because I can't find anybody to work there. You know, maybe the poor souls over at Safeway could get a few more people to help them out there. As are the people at the post office. All I'm saying is, how much sense does creating a short-term rental problem in a place where we really don't have the parking, where his 3-bedroom place could be used for a single family home? I mean, this is what doesn't tear up our neighborhood. Folks moved here for a small town to have neighbors, and short-term rentals, when they're all clustered at Ward's Harrison, doesn't create a very good neighborhood, and in my opinion, destroys the charm of the town. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Sue. Any other public comments? Seeing none in city council chambers, anybody on?
I think we have one.
Oh, Claire, I'm sorry, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Claire Skeen. I'm the Director of the Office of Emergency Management for Lake County. As many of you know, Colorado will be entering a historic winter event this week with the heaviest impacts occurring from Wednesday evening to Friday morning. Over this time period, Lake County will be in a wind chill warning from the National Weather Service. On Thursday, we can expect a low of -6 degrees, gusts of 50 miles an hour, wind chill of -32 degrees. On Friday, we actually warm up to a high of 9 degrees, a low of -5, and a wind chill of -11 degrees. Throughout Wednesday night into Thursday morning, we also may see about 3 to 4 inches of snow. So a lot of what I just said may seem like a routine winter day in Lake County. It is important to note that the range, the plains and southeast Colorado will be heavily impacted by this storm. The high at DIA on Thursday is expected to be -4 degrees. An Arctic front will be coming through from 1 to 5 p.m. on Thursday, and that'll drop temperatures about 30 to 35 degrees within an hour. So with all that being said, I just wanted to come by tonight. And I ask that everyone here, everyone listening, take some time to prepare themselves for winter weather. And please encourage your constituents to do so as well. As with any winter weather event, there is always a possibility of power outages, and OEM does have open lines of communication with Xcel. If you happen to experience a power outage, please report it to Xcel. And, you know, I hope the few days are uneventful and just really cold, but the winter season lasts quite a while here in Leadville. So no better time than the present to kind of start preparing yourselves for winter if you haven't done so already. So bring in some extra wood tonight and tomorrow, check that your smoke and CO detectors are working, keep your pipes warm and insulated, charge your phones and any portable battery banks you may have. Stay up to date on weather trends, and we usually recommend trying to keep up to 3 days worth of supplies, medications, and non-perishable food on hand. Most importantly, use this time to call a friend or a neighbor, chat up and catch up. See if they need anything. Our community will always be our strongest asset here in Lake County. As always, OEM is here to connect people with the resources they need. If you or anyone you know does not have a secure source of heat or housing or has any questions about how to best prepare, please don't hesitate to reach out. FEMA has a really great website, ready.gov, and they have a plethora of information to utilize for preparation. So thank you all for your time tonight. Stay warm and happy holidays.
Thank you, Glenn. Anybody else in chambers? Anybody on Zoom who would like to speak to city council on items not on the agenda? Okay, thank you very much. Next up, we have the consent agenda. These are the approval of the minutes of December 6th, 2022. I've skimmed them and didn't see any problems. Anybody else see anything that needs correction? In which case I would entertain a motion, please.
Lab moves to approve the consent agenda.
Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. All in favor. Next up, we have the city administrator's report.
Okay, well, so a little bit of good news to start off with. Our human resources director vacancy has been reposted. We have a human resources consulting company helping us push out the message further and more broadly than we did last time around. And we already have interest from 2 people, so that is good. One of the things we want to talk to the council about is, so we held a joint meeting with the Historic Council and Historic Preservation Commission back on December 13th. Thank you to those council members who were able to join. For those that were not able to join, what we are proposing is to do a work session with the city council on January 24th. Any objections to January 24th? We talked about those code changes. The Historic Preservation Commission will not be joining us, but there are members who can be, the whole commission, but there are members who can be present to answer questions. And so we'd like to know if the council is available on January 24th.
I am.
Should be good. What time on 24?
Well, we'd be here just a regular meeting at 6.
Oh, that's great, yeah.
Okay, council member.
I'm
Grant?
available.
Okay, council member Larissa, she can.
No, I won't be available that night.
Shannon is available.
All right, how about Dana?
On the 24th, am I hearing that correctly?
Yes,
I won't,
correct.
I will not be available.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, it sounds like we'll have a quorum, so if there are materials or anything that any council member who cannot attend, you'd like me to brief you in advance or brief you afterwards, I'm happy to do that. It's just a work session. So potential initial topic is the historic preservation code changes and also potential to discuss economic development. You all put some money in the budget for economic development. I wanted to update you all. I did attend the most recent EDC board meeting, and the EDC plans to continue. They have board members who are dedicated to keep continuing the work. They elected Adam Ducharme and Elsa Clark to the board and re-elected Melissa Kendrick. So what I'd like to, they requested that the city be thinking about any priorities that the city would like them to consider and focus on. Because in their efforts to continue the EDC, they are gonna have a board meeting in January at a date to be determined to think about strategic planning. And if y'all don't know, Tamara Jelnick is their interim executive director. Other things to talk about, so our next council meeting will be January 3rd. And of course, at the beginning of the year, there's a handful of things that we do, and one of the things the mayor and I were thinking might be good is to have everyone tell us the boards and commissions or committees that you all are representing the city on. And just do a check-in and see if everybody who is on that or being our representative wants to continue being our representative to that entity. So being new, I don't know, I think I've heard over the year, you know, so-and-so's doing this and that. It might be nice to just come up with a spreadsheet of who's doing what, and then we figure out if the folks want to continue on that. We don't want to burden you if you don't want to keep that responsibility, but you know, who's the Mineral Well Trail Committee representative if we have one, or who's a representative to EDC. So those kinds of things. So if you can let me know before the next meeting, any committees that you're representing the city on, let me know, and let me know if you'd like to continue it, because we'd like to have that discussion for our first council meeting of the year. We'll have lots of housekeeping things. But that's one of the biggies. We'll be doing the supplemental budget adoption, that is scheduled for the 3rd. And potentially discussion on the moratorium that we talked about over the summer for OHVs. So Christiana is working on a draft of that for us. So that's a few items coming up for our next meetings. A couple other updates. We did at the holiday party, if you were there, you got to see that the city honored employees of the year. But if you were not at the party, I'd like you to know that Bo Nickman of the fire department was our one of 2 employees of the year. And Caitlin was also our 2nd employee of the year. We want to thank them, and you know, everybody puts in a lot of work, but these were 2 employees that really stood out, and we wanted to honor their commitment and the heart and soul that they put into serving the city in the last year. Couple other things real quick. Parklet update. As you can see, construction across the street for the parklet is on a pause. The construction will resume after the new year when our contractor is available to just finish working. And the good news is that Colorado Department of Transportation, CDOT, has extended, I'm just going to use that word because it's more complicated on their end, but extended the time for us to complete the project. So we will actually have another calendar year they gave us. I think they understood that our construction windows are tight and contractors are hard to wrangle. So the good news is construction will resume, and we've got an extension on that grant money. I was gonna give Claire's little pitch on the winter weather advisory, but she covered everything. It looks like the mayor's already dressing warmly with his reindeer sweater. So y'all need to go get a reindeer sweater. Do
Where's
stuff.
everybody else's reindeer sweater? I don't understand.
You didn't get the.
We didn't know they were gonna do reindeer games.
Okay,
Uh,
all right.
but that is it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for city administrator?
I have a question, and
Please.
it's totally unrelated to everything you said. Is Plum Street next to the Tabor Opera House vacated?
Actually, it's St. Louis Avenue.
St. Louis.
Technically, it is vacated.
Yes.
We've never, when we leave it in use, but eventually there's gonna be an elevator sitting in the middle of that street, so. At which point it will be unusable.
Is there a way we could get another planning ideas? Can we get some sort of preliminary sketch somehow one day of like what that may look like when it's not just pavement, and perhaps a way to connect the Harrison to the parking lot in the back.
It's been discussed, there's a plan. That the elevator, we've given 20 feet. Of right of way to the elevator, but I think they only need 18. The pathway along there, along that wall, will be. The design is yet to be, fulfilled, but it'll be a lighted pathway that makes that walk from the parking lot to Harrison Avenue more inviting.
Oh, yeah, it'd be great to have it, so.
Had to probably put on-
windy with some park benches and
Yeah,
be nice.
can't be windy, I don't think, because of all this infrastructure that's gonna be on the other side of it, but. And if you go to the Tabor Opera House, you can see the plans there for the building and all the things, not only the elevator, but the mechanical room. Yeah, sticks
And
way
it
out.
includes St. Louis Ave.
That's on St. Louis Avenue. All that's
Oh,
on.
no, but is there a design for what St. Louis Ave looks like? Or a
No,
conceptual plan?
the answer is no, there's not a conceptual drawing. There's a lot of conversation around what we want to do, but not a conceptual drawing.
Okay.
They're years out from building that elevator, so.
I'm wondering, I mean, if you have a, like, say, it's a concrete pathway, I would think that it could manage the weight of whatever equipment needs to go in there to build the elevator. I'm curious if there's a way to start that.
The thought. Interesting, yeah.
So we vacated that to the Tabor Opera House, correct?
Well, we had to do half to the Tabor Opera House and we had to do half to the next door neighbor. You have to, when you vacate a street, you split it right into two property owners on both sides.
Oh, so half of that St. Louis goes to the gas station?
Yeah.
That's terrible. That really reduces your opportunity there.
Well, I say half, but I don't think we actually did that. I'd have to look at it again. We were a little more clever than that.
I'm curious if we could get some more information on St. Louis Avenue.
Okay.
It'd be fantastic.
All right.
I have
Any
something.
questions? Yes, please, go ahead.
Shannon. Hey, Lori, I wanted to make sure that signs didn't fall off of our radar, the sandwich board ones, and also parking, the parking plan moving forward, since we've gotten rid of the no parking signs in town.
Yes. It is always said that we would do the sandwich board, we would look at that in January, and January is filling up, but yes, we just had a good meeting with facilitator from DOLA regarding the Main Street program. And one of the things she mentioned is they have technical assistance is with signs and wayfinding and that kind of thing, so I wanted to reach out and find out if we can get some technical assistance or even money.
Excellent news. Thank you for that. I just don't want it to fall completely off the radar. I know January is busy.
It's looking busier all the time now.
Yeah. It's the story of my life.
Okay. All right. Anybody else with questions for the city administrator? Okay, we will move on. We have department reports. We're going to start with the police department. Any questions on the police department report? I can tell you, we have one officer still in field training, Brenda, and it's not clear to me exactly how much time she has left, but it's not much. Once she is done with field training, we'll have 6 officers who can patrol individually. Right now, she has to be patrol with another officer as part of her field training. Okay, if there are no questions, we'll go on to the fire department report.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I'll just get right to it here. Station 2, the electrical's on. They are doing carpet in the upstairs. They're doing trim, lighting. They're working on the upstairs firehouse area. And then they're gonna go down to the downstairs area, so it's coming along. Projected date is probably gonna be. It keeps getting pushed back, of course, there's a lot of. Material issues and weather now and all that, so we're hoping, hopefully probably by the end of January. Moving in February sometime, so. We'll be hopeful for that, apparatus, the type 1 Spartan and type 3 Mare. I haven't really heard back anything other than. It was supposed to be the end of December for the Spartan, but I think that can's gonna get kicked down the road too.
No, they've got time, Dan.
They do. When they
It'll
go on
be here
break
any-
next
It's
week.
gonna be here any day.
11 days.
So I'll try to just stay up on top of that and kind of get some definitive dates. We did reach out the other day. They didn't have one for us. Sam.gov.
Can you back up just a second?
Yeah.
On the type 1 and type 3, you've been purchasing equipment for those units. But that, you'll wait until they get here to actually apply that equipment to the type 1 and the type 3. How's that gonna work?
Correct. So yeah,
Okay.
we're in kind of a bill nightmare right now with everything coming out of the fire fund balance. We're purchasing everything out of the fire fund balance for the type 3 and the type 1. And then we're gonna bill BME.
I was gonna say, they're gonna pay us back for that, right?
And we're gonna try to do that invoice by the end of the year to make it easier for close up. And all of that, and we are almost finalizing all of that. So yeah, and then that equipment, we're just stockpiling it for those pieces of equipment.
Okay, thank you.
Sam.gov was, the process was redone. Thanks to Donna. I greatly appreciate that. That's our system that we need to have for our grants. So we're up to date on that. Fire Academy graduation on December 10th. We graduated 15, probably saw it in the paper. And we have 7 personnel potential to join our resident reserve program. We'll do a process and see who makes it. And I just heard just now the VFA grant was awarded. It's actually one of the ones that aren't on here under grants. And that was the one that Hannah helped me out with. And we got it for $10,000 to get radios for wildland firefighting. Chief Bull did Tree of Sharing, and we got gift cards to 380 children. And that's just so wonderful that he's involved in things like that in our community. Multiple things where he's involved in, but I just wanted to make note of. End of report. Thank you.
Any question for the chief? It sounds like you're gonna hire 4 more residents out of the academy, is that correct?
We hope. We have 7. We don't really know actually what that number is, but we're hoping for 4 out of those 7.
And that bring you up to 6. Are you hoping to house some of them in the station 2?
Correct, yeah.
Okay,
We're hoping for at least 4 out of the 6. We'll take up that housing. The other 2 don't need it.
okay, then what are you gonna do with the other house you're renting?
Oh, we're gonna get out of this house
Okay,
as soon as that opens.
all right, great, thanks, that's great to know.
Yeah.
All righty, any questions for the fire department? Okay. Moving on, street department.
So updates from the street department, we haven't, I laugh that everyone's saying it's not snowing, even though it snows a little bit, but the streets department has had a chance to catch up a little bit. They moved, all the snow last week from piles, most of the piles from the west side, and they're working on the east side. I've gone around and seen that at least the piles I'm aware of are being moved. So I think Tony's objective is just to get ahead of the next storms, because we always don't know how big they're gonna be or how they're gonna hit. I have been driving around town, and things that I've noticed have been dealt with it within a day, and we have gotten compliments. I got another compliment today from someone regarding the streets and how they're looking good. So that's always nice to get compliments instead of complaints. So there was one resident who was very complimentary, who usually is not very complimentary, so, I think we're doing all right. There hasn't been a ton of snow, but I think the streets they've been doing good.
All
I'm
right,
happy to take any questions back to, our streets department, I've learned, goes to bed at about 5 o'clock, so. So I'm happy to get with them with any questions you may have tomorrow.
any questions for street department? Okay, thank you. Animal shelter.
Good evening, everyone. So we had 15 adoptions in November, which was the second highest of the year. It was a very busy month. Thankfully, we didn't have any surrenders, but we made up for that in unclaimed strays. So 11 animals were not claimed. 6 of those were kittens. The majority of the unclaimed strays did come from the county, not from within the city. We had a total of 21 impounds, 1 bite quarantine, 8 holds, and then we had a cat picked up at Safeway that had lived at Lake Fork and belonged to Ark Valley. So that was interesting, and that kitty got transferred back to Ark Valley. The daily animal count, I did add an average to the very end there, so you can see, I think it was 18.5 was the average number of animals we had in our care for November.
That's a pretty high number comparatively, isn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty high. 8 of those were from the seizure, the PD seizure. We held on to them for 5 weeks for some of them. December, I entered information there. And average December so far was about 15, so thankfully went down a little bit. We did have 2 owners complete the management and training for dogs that bite course, so they met me here on a Sunday. It's about an hour and a half long of a presentation and fill out a sheet of paper afterwards. I sent one to Judge Floyd and the other one to the police officers. Our updated shelter animal count info. And then I included the notes from the tour that Dwayne and Anna took of our animal shelter, as well as the tour that myself and Charlotte took of the Alamosa shelter. And we'll obviously have more numbers and statistics to present on that later, but those were the highlights of both of those tours.
Did you mention the grant?
Oh, no, we got a grant. 2,500 for spay and neuter, and then another grant just opened up on the 15th for the license plate. We got that last year for microchips. It can go towards spay, neuter, vaccines, or microchips for shelter animals. So we will reapply for that next week.
Nice. Have you heard any more about Dr. Jeff's facility and a timeline on that, or is there anything?
I am not in the loop on that.
Okay, well,
I think it's still a work in progress from our last chat.
But when that does happen, that's a real benefit to us, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Potentially?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Any questions for the animal shelter? Okay, thank you. Next up, we have the deputy city clerk. She has a report. She has another obligation tonight, so Lori has been kind enough to sit in and operate this system beautifully.
Business license renewals are going out. So there may be some people who are confused that they just paid, but they just paid 2022 when we hounded the last of them to get them paid up. And so we are now sending out 2023 business license renewals.
For the short-term rental licenses, looks like we don't have. Wait list.
We have
That's correct.
9 openings. That's correct. There's no wait list. Does anyone look at it? Yes, okay. Me personally, I wish that the number hadn't gone up as dramatically as it did in 2022 over 2021, but it did. And so that's the number we're working with, which is 171 total licenses. And as you can see, it looks like we're at 162 right now.
And as we mentioned in the work session, a little of that was some housekeeping because there were some short-term rental applicants that had started the process and had created, a set of their account in muni rents, but had not completed the process. And so we had notified them that we were potentially holding spot for them, but they needed to let us know by a certain date or complete their application by a certain date. And if they didn't, then we dropped them out of the queue, therefore freeing up a license for someone who wanted to complete an application. So some of that I think there are a number of factors, but one of them I think is housekeeping. That we weren't holding a license for somebody potentially to be doing the last step on their application.
All right.
I mean, it's working.
It is. I think what we don't know until we get, we did a pretty good job last year of trying to find out who is trying to fly under the radar. People who are non-compliant. And we dealt with that. I think we dealt with it pretty well. This next year could be a little different challenge, but it seems like we came through these first couple of years in good shape.
What are you thinking about the challenges in the new year? What's, if you're looking at your crystal ball, man, what are you speaking to?
In general,
Yes.
well, let's do that in the mayor's report.
Okay,
It's a great question.
yeah.
Anybody else have any questions for Deputy City Clerk report? Okay. Next up, we have the building department. This is just a report we get from the county. It's just informational. If you have any questions, we can call Ann and have her come in. Next up is the planning department. Jake.
All right, good evening. If you'd like to follow along, my memo was on page 27 of your packet. In terms of active applications since the last planning department update, tonight we have you'll be reviewing the Planning Zoning Commission's recommendation on the 809 Spruce Street employee housing change of use, the conditional use permit for that. So we'll talk about that here in a little bit. The other active application that we've had recently was regarding the 301 East 8th Street short-term rental CUP. The member of the public who provided comment earlier, Sue Johnson, she was referencing that application. The Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed that application, but actually found the CUP was not required. And the applicant did withdraw their application. This is regarding the property, I guess informally known as the Pink Church Building.
To be clear, she withdrew her application for a CUP, but she has not withdrawn her application for short-term rentals.
Thank you for that clarification. Correct.
Okay, good. All right.
Planning and Zoning Commission also held a work session for a proposed new commercial building at 113 East 7th Street. That's Ted Megan's Green's candy shop and e-bike rental shop. Contemplating a new commercial building there for the e-bike rental business. And then lastly, in terms of active applications, we have received the applications for the Community Justice Center. This is for their plat, for their site plan, and for the conditional use permit. So I have referred that project out to all the various local referral agencies. We're beginning to accept referral agency comments. Did want to point out that the Historic Preservation Commission, I believe I mentioned this in my last update, that we're going to hold a work session regarding the state Historic Office of Historic Preservation's request for comments for the Section 106 review. The HPC did hold that work session. They found the project would have no adverse effect on the historic district. One interesting point is that the designs that the state did receive are they vary significantly from the designs that the HPC reviewed. So the county will have to work that out with the state in regards to which set of plans are there considering. In regards to applications that are in the kind of pre-application status, did want to mention one interesting one. We have held a pre-application meeting with Circle K regarding EV charging stations that will be proposed in actually what was formerly the Chestnut Street right of way, so essentially between just the south of the Circle K, between that and the Community Justice Center site. That right of way was vacated in 1934, so the city attorney is investigating the title to the vacated right of way. I'm assuming that it'll be essentially 50% county property to the south and 50% of that right of way would go to the Circle K, or it has gone to the Circle K. But that there's a bank of 6 charging stations that they're proposing in the vacated Chestnut Street right of way.
So if half is half and half, which we know makes sense, the way that streets are vacated.
It's as bad as the state statute for a street
No,
right of
no,
way.
I get it,
Yeah,
but this was in 1934.
right.
So they deeded that to who?
Well, the deed says that the land goes to whatever the state statute says at that time regarding vacation of right of way. So it referenced state statutes very generally. So that's what Christiana is looking into, is what
So
was the
it
statute
should
at that time.
convey with the county's purchase of that land. Is that what you're saying?
We'll see. It's interesting.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Because it could still belong to Union Pacific.
We'll see.
Okay.
Regarding construction, most of this is regarding, my update will be regarding the rail yard. So regarding the rail yard phase 1 and the subdivision improvement agreement, the SIA, the developer has requested a 2-year extension and has provided cost estimates from their engineer for the remaining public improvements. I have reviewed that and provided comments for revisions on those remaining cost estimates. And I have met with the city's consulting engineer regarding beginning the process for inspecting the constructed improvements. So I'm expecting some progress on that in the coming weeks. Regarding phase 2, the developer is proposing to reduce the street right-of-way widths in phase 2. Phase 2, the council's approved the PUD, but really that document hasn't been recorded, and there haven't been any other documents like plats or anything that have been recorded. So all of that is really waiting on kind of the final answer on whether or not these reduced street right-of-ways would be approved. So I've sent out preliminary comments to all the various referral agencies, including Streets Department, Excel Energy, et cetera, regarding that proposed street width reduction. And finally, regarding phase 3, I did receive a call from Fading West, and they'd like to meet to talk about phase 3. So I'm meeting with them, I think, the second week of January. In terms of code amendments, we're moving a lot of code amendments forward right now. The subdivision amendments are in your packet tonight, so you'll have a second reading on that tonight. Regarding the proposed historic district code amendments, as Lori mentioned earlier in her update, we would like to hold a city council work session on January 24th. I thought the joint work session that was held, I believe, last week was very productive. I just want to thank council members Pergency and Hill and the mayor for their attendance and their feedback. That was really appreciated. The PAT recommendations, staff is working on that whenever I can get to that, but expect to go back to Planning and Zoning Commission hopefully in January, probably most likely February, with some to move that further down the line in terms of getting into ordinance format. And finally, regarding the zoning table of use updates, hopefully we'll be going to Planning and Zoning Commission on January 11th with a public hearing. I have some work to do with the city attorney over the next couple of weeks to get ready for that. And then just just miscellaneous updates here. Staff did receive a request for comments from the county regarding a proposed rezoning of the animal shelter and Big Al storage properties. The county and Big Al's storage company are joint applicants in this proposed rezoning. This would rezone those properties on East 12th Street from industrial mining to commercial industrial. So I did provide a comment letter back to the county with some concerns, namely regarding compatibility with the city's R2 zoning district, which is to the south, to the rail yard PUD, and also concerns regarding the boundary of the proposed rezoning and potential spot zoning. And then finally, regarding compliance with the comprehensive plan which has a future land use map, which designates that area as residential infill, not necessarily commercial industrial. So I think that's all the updates from that. I'd be happy to take any questions on that. And then final note is that the historic district demolition moratorium that the council passed will become effective on January 5th. I did meet with the county. They currently do not have a demolition permit requirement for anything within the city. The only thing that they have is they require the state to do an asbestos inspection. So I did request that the county implement a demolition permit requirement and for any properties within the city of Leadville, and the city of Leadville will get sign off on the issuance of a demolition permit. That's it for me. I'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Got a lot on your plate. Any questions for planning? Okay, thank you very much. Next up, we have a sales tax comparison. And we haven't received any numbers for December yet, have we?
We have, they're right about 289,000.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, it was gonna change this by about 70, it was gonna be about $75,000 more.
The total, if we added that in, would be, 3,881,000, almost at 3,882,000, which is almost 1.5 over the budget. And we budgeted for 2023, 3.4, so we're under what we got this year.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Next up, we have financials and then bills. Oh, we don't have, the financials aren't in here.
I apologize. I am so sorry. I did not get them done in time.
Okay.
I will get a copy to you as soon as I do get them done.
All right, thank you.
And we're not gonna let Donna apologize for that,
Yeah.
because if you wanna know who's done every version of the budget and gone over with a fine tooth comb and who has been working on our supplemental budget, Donna has had plenty on her plate. So we let her take a pass on the financials this meeting.
Thank you.
And maybe one of these days we'll get an HR person to take some of that.
As long as Donna keeps delivering us good sales tax numbers, we're okay with, we're okay with letting her get us the financials when they're ready.
Okay. Next up, we have the bills. In your review of the bills, any questions on any particular bills?
Necessarily have a question on the bills. But I do have a question on revenue from the EV charger. Do we know what?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that, Councilmember Hill. I forgot. So I have gotten notices that yes, we are going to be receiving a whopping $550 for 2 months, which would be, I believe, November and December. So we may want to revisit that. I'm not sure.
That will probably want to raise.
We might, but also once you get into the off season, there's just not much activity. No, it's not like it is in the summer when you have a lot of people moving through. So I'm not ready to panic quite yet. I think and of course, we will compare that against our cost.
Saying 14,175.71.
Okay.
Is that for the month of November? I'd say.
That would be through October.
So we still don't have an apples to apples comparison there. So we shall see.
We shall see. And the other part is that anybody who wants to charge at our station in the real cold, they can't actually get here.
Right, because the battery wears out before they get.
Yeah, pretty much. We'll put an EV charger on top of Fremont Pass.
Not a bad idea.
But we'll talk to Climax about that, yeah. I'm half joking, but I know everything I read, it's two things really affect EV vehicles, and one is hills. The other one's cold, and we happen to have both of those.
Well, Climax did reach out to us. They were, now I can't remember the thing. She did reach out to us. That Climax was interested in looking at EV charging, and I don't know if it was just for their employees. But they did have the same questions for us about like altitude, cold, how was ours faring? So maybe it's not out of the question.
It's going to be interesting. Any other questions about the bills? Then I would entertain a motion to pay the bills, please.
Councilmember Jacinski, moves to pay the bills.
Bill seconds.
Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Thank you. All were in favor. Okay, time for some action items. The first one is a conditional use permit for 809 Spruce. And since this will be a public hearing, I'll go through our process. Good evening. My name is Greg Lobby, and I am the mayor of the city of Leadville. This is a public hearing before city council to consider a conditional use permit to allow for expansion of the authorized use of the property to change from the existing single-family dwelling to a rooming and boarding house in order to rent the home for the purposes of employee housing. The property would then be considered a rooming and boarding house according to Leadville Municipal Code. Tonight, we'll consider the following conditional use, 809 Spruce. When the public hearing is open, I will first attend to some preliminary housekeeping matters. I will then ask our staff to discuss the highlights of the staff report, followed by the applicant to make a brief presentation of his or her case. Since we are both the applicant and staff, that should be pretty straightforward. Then testimony of any individuals in the audience who wish to speak in favor of the application, and then those individuals who wish to speak against the application. The applicant will have an opportunity for rebuttal, which is the applicant's opportunity to respond to any comments made by members of the public. After rebuttal, I will close the public input portion of the public hearing and allow planning commissioners, or in this case, city council, an opportunity to ask questions. Once the public input portion of the hearing is closed, we will not accept additional testimony unless it is in response to questions posed by the commission with the applicant. At the conclusion of our questioning, the commission will render a recommendation to the city council, which could include a continuation of the hearing, which could include a continuation of the hearing. This public hearing is quasi judicial, which means that we have to follow certain procedural requirements to establish a record. For this reason, it is important that when you speak, you identify yourself. If you would like to submit written materials, please understand the city will have to hold on to those materials for at least 30 days after city council renders its decision. Are there any questions about the public hearing procedure? Okay, I will now open the public hearing for 809 Spruce. This time I ask the city council to disclose any ex parte communications. I'm gonna have to say, since the city's the applicant, that's very weird. I mean, not much we can do about it, but. Okay. At this time, I would ask for staff report highlights.
All right, good evening. For the record, I'm Jake LaShawn's planning director for the city of Leadville. So this is a city application for city-owned property. The property is at 809 Spruce Street. This is a proposal to change the use from existing single-family dwelling to a rooming and boarding house for the purposes of providing employee housing. If you want to follow along on page 27 of your packet, the Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing on this application last week. In terms of the existing property, existing site, it is a historic 2-story home, has 5 bedrooms, 5.5 bathrooms. includes a detached one-car garage on the property. It's actually across the alley that's included within the property and the title for this land. All of the surrounding homes are single family, all the adjacent uses are single family. In terms of the what the code says about this, under Title 17, the section regarding by right conditional and prohibited uses, this property is zoned R2, and the rooming and boarding house use is a conditional use within the R2 zone. The city's proposal to house 5 employees and rent those the 5 rooms individually. I guess clarification, up to 5 employees. That would be considered per the code. It would fit most appropriately in the definition of rooming and boarding house, because those rooms are being rented out individually. That would differ from a single family home where 5 different unrelated individuals went in on all under one lease for one single lease jointly for example for 1 year. So looking at what the code says about this, the general intent statement of R2 zone and talks about having varied and mixed uses, mixed residential uses within this zoning district. And as long as those varied and mixed uses are compatible with the surrounding residential neighborhood. So we have, there's several criteria for approval of a conditional use. Criteria A in the code is regarding compliance with the zoning requirements. So this is everything like setbacks, height, basically everything, all the dimensional requirements, lot coverage, density. So there's not any proposed modification to the exterior of this house or to the site. So there are not any concerns from the Planning and Zoning Commission regarding compliance with the zoning dimensional requirements. The second criteria B is regarding compliance with the comprehensive plan and the future land use map. The future land use map of our comprehensive plan designates this area as town site residential. Where you might just scrolling down, if there's a map included in the staff report. So this proposed residential use would serve a very specific need that's identified in the comprehensive plan in terms of community housing. So the P&Z does not have any concerns. You can kind of see, a good portion of town is called out as that town site residential, everything there in orange. So the P&Z does not have any concerns there. Thank you. Criteria C is regarding just general harmony with the surrounding neighborhood. As I kind of hinted at earlier, other than the terms of the lease for rooming and boarding house use, the use of rooming and boarding house is very similar to single family dwelling use. It's really that in terms of the impact to adjacent properties. So it's really just the lease structure that is the difference between those.
But Chapin, as a point of clarification, and in the planning and zoning hearing, isn't it true that we heard that the houses on each side of that are short-term rentals?
Yes, I haven't looked into that or verified that, but
All
that's
right,
my
thank you.
understanding. Yep, thank you. So it would have a very rooming and boarding house use would have a very similar impact to adjacent properties as a single family dwelling. So in terms of parking, we could expect probably up to 5 cars to need to be parked locally somewhere to a single family dwelling, generate similar number of pedestrian and vehicular trips. So the P&Z did not have any concerns regarding the proposed impact and harmony on the to the neighborhood properties. In terms of off-street parking requirements, this is really the last big criteria that the P&Z discussed. The code right now, the off-street parking requirements require 1 parking space per unit for multifamily dwelling use. If you look at the definition in the code of family, it specifically excludes rooming and boarding house use. So this is not a single family or multifamily use. And if you look at the remainder of the off-street parking requirements, there's not a use category that this would appropriately fit into. So therefore, it is exempt from the off-street parking requirements similar to a single family dwelling. And so there's not any off-street parking spaces required. As I mentioned, this property does have one detached, detached 1-car garage. that's connected to this property. It's across the alley, but it's the same piece of property technically on the title. That one car garage, I think we have a photo of it, is so it's the one on the left there in the photo, the whitish garage. The doors are non-functional and it has a lot of stuff in it. I think we've had city employees there cleaning some of that out. So currently, right now, you couldn't fit a park a car in there. If the garage doors be repaired, all the stuff gets cleared out, etc. It potentially could house one vehicle for an off-street parking space, although it is not required. There is plenty of on-street parking in the immediate vicinity. One of the things we discussed at the Planning and Zoning Commission is coming up with a parking plan for this city property, similar to what is required for a short-term rental license. And so we did prepare the city did prepare a parking plan that can be provided to tenants. That parking plan essentially shows tenants where on-street parking is available in the immediate vicinity within a few blocks. For on-street parking, it also in terms of overflow parking, guest parking. If for some reason there's not on-street parking available, it does provide a plan that shows access to City Hall in terms of if there are not on-street parking spaces available, even for overnight parking. So that plan is available.
As part of that plan, did we reference the Ice Palace Park upper parking lot?
I think it needs to be amended to include that, but that should be.
Okay, just curious.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So I guess in summary, this rooming and boarding house use is technically required, although it will function very similar to a single family residence. It's just a difference in the lease structure. The Planning and Zoning Commission did find that this proposed application complied with all the requirements of Title 17 of the zoning code, and the commission unanimously recommended that the city council approve this application. With the findings that are included in your packet. We do not have conditions because typically municipalities don't place conditions on their own city projects, city properties. Take any questions. Thank you.
Any questions for staff? Can we hear from the applicant, please?
Sure. So I did have a presentation to the Planning Commission as well. You are probably well aware of the need for affordable housing. I think one of the things I wanted to highlight was we did have several people speak at the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing about parking. Chair Gabby Holder was adamant there is not a parking problem on the street, although we do have a parking plan in place because we think it's a lot of people would like to see a plan. I think one of the main concerns when we initially proposed this project was the question about the parking. We've had a number of people who've been walking by it on a regular basis, and it's not necessarily a parking problem unless really the short-term rentals next door are completely full. So that's why we have a plan to address that. I think our planning director has done a good job of explaining why this meets the criteria for the conditional use permit, and that's really the purview of the Planning Commission and City Council is to make sure that it complies with the criteria. And obviously, we know there's a strong need for this. We are fortunate enough to have a tenant in the house right now, which has been great. It has served the exact purpose that it's supposed to serve. This is an individual who worked for the city who would probably have to leave city employment and leave Leadville if she didn't have housing. And so now she has housing. So it's we've had no issues and no concerns with any residents. We've put in place a lease. We have the processes in place for applications, and so I think we are at a point we're ready to do this.
Any questions for the applicant? I have one. I mean, I know it's been discussed and among us as well that if we don't have a full need of 5 rooms in that we can offer those rooms to the school district or the county or any other organization that may need to hire somebody but doesn't have housing. And so that's Is that your thought process?
Right, so we took what we had at the initial council meetings about this project and that's in the application itself. That explains that city employees will be given, current city employees will be given priority as far as application. And then we move to county employees. And then we move to people who are currently employed within the city limits. That would, this is a system, we'll have to see how well it works. We would probably, at this point, you know, be able to offer housing to other entities.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Chapin?
I have
Yes.
two clarifications.
Yeah.
One thing I forgot to mention, and then also one thing to add on. So regarding the occupancy, if it was, you know, hospital employees or something, that would not affect the criteria for approval for the short term, I'm sorry, for the conditional use permit, if we're to be non-city employees. And then the thing that I forgot to mention is regarding the parking plan that I mentioned, that does include limitations for the occupants, for the tenants, so that they, you know, where they can, you know, cannot block ingress and egress to adjacent properties, can't block mailboxes for adjacent homes on the street, and, you know, they can't park in unpaved areas like, you know, on the side of the alley and block traffic.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Any questions? You'll have another opportunity to ask questions.
One question.
Yes, please.
You have one picture where you have the double car garage and the single car garage.
Yes.
What property owns the space in front of those garages and can it be used as, I mean, I think it was in there, but like, can that be used as a?
I believe we have an easement across that property and it might, we do have the,
It's in the surveys in there.
There's an easement?
we have an easement
Yeah.
over that. You have the picture, that's.
What does that easement give? Does that provide a parking space there?
No,
I believe it's an access easement. I'm looking at it.
Yeah, you could block their garage, it'd be the same either way.
Access to the garage.
Yeah, so Lori, Grace is gonna move, blow this up a little bit further, if you can see the improvement location certificate that we received. And yeah, so you can see parcel 3 in that parentheses says easement. Mhm.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to move to public comments. I would invite anybody with public comments in favor of this conditional use permit, to please come up, introduce yourself, and you will have up to 15 seconds. Oh, no, that's, no, 3 minutes, I'm sorry.
Thank you, council. My name is Christy Galarza. I work for Lake County Building Generation as the lead housing facilitator. And today I'm here to read a letter of support from the Lake County Housing Coalition. The Lake County Housing Coalition would like to commend the city of Leadville for their action to continue the former bed and breakfast at 809 Spruce to convert it to workforce housing. As we are all aware, housing prices continue to rise and are well outreach to conduct them. Although the price tag was relatively high for this purchase, we know that it would have been more costly for the city to construct 5 housing units. Additionally, it would have taken a significant amount of time to complete that construction. We see the acquisition of 809 Spruce as a bold innovation to our community housing struggles. This purchase is not taking away from the existing housing stock or displacing current residents, but instead converting a short-term rental to long-term housing for city needs. We have heard the city staff state that they want to be good neighbors to this beautiful community. They are currently researching workforce housing policies and are committed to meeting with the neighbors to reduce unwanted income. The city is committed to continuing to participate in other housing projects and programs. We look forward to continuing to partner with the city to enact strategies to eliminate barriers to quality, healthy housing for all Lake County residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clark.
I want to add to that, though I am the chairman of the committee, I did not participate in any of the discussions concerning 809 schools.
All right, well, thank you. Is there anybody else in the public, either on Zoom or in the room, who would like to speak in favor of this conditional use permit? Seeing none, is there anybody who would like to speak in opposition to this conditional use permit? Still none, in which case I would entertain a motion to close the public input portion of the public hearing.
Councilmember Jensen moves for the public input portion of public hearing.
Seconds. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. All are in favor. At this time, the public comment is closed and we are in deliberation. In terms of deliberation, you can ask questions of either staff or applicant. I'll say I thought this was a bold move last year. I still think it is. It's taken us a long time to get here, but that's okay. I'm pleased that we're going to have the ability, not only for us, but that we're going to have the ability potentially to offer to other organizations employee housing in a marketplace that is incredibly difficult to navigate right now.
I'd agree, bold step, but I hope we keep getting bolder.
Ooh, all right. At this time, I would entertain a motion on this conditional use permit.
Woodland moves to approve 809 Spruce Street change of use conditional use permit PL 2022-1114 located at 809 Spruce Street along with the attached findings.
Green seconds.
Thank you, Dana. You were quicker on the draw than Max. All right. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lorenzen.
Yes.
Councilmember Phil.
Yes.
Councilmember Noel.
Yes.
Councilmember Grant.
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Green.
Yes.
Mayor Lott.
Yes. I would like in closing to thank City Administrator Simonson for her vision in this and the boldness of her recommended actions. So it's big. Next up, we have ordinance number 11, series 2022. An ordinance adding a new chapter 16.22 to and amending chapter 16.28 of Title 16 of the Leadville Municipal Code concerning townhouse, condominium, and building footprint lot subdivisions. And this is our second reading. So we'll go through a public hearing process. There, have five. Okay. The City Council adopted this ordinance on first reading on November 15th, 2022. Because this is the second and final reading of the ordinance, City Council will follow these steps. First, I'll ask the city staff to give any presentation to provide any information they have for City Council about the ordinance. Next, I will invite the public to provide any comments on the ordinance they would like City Council to consider. And finally, Council will discuss and vote on the ordinance. So at this time, I would ask for a staff presentation, please.
I can do this and have Christiana add anything that you'd like to add.
Okay.
But Mayor and Council, this ordinance, if approved on second reading, would amend Title 16, which are the subdivision regulations of the municipal code, and create an administrative subdivision application and review process for townhomes, condominiums, and building footprint lot subdivisions. There are no changes from first reading.
Gotcha. Christian, any thoughts?
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Sorry. At this time, I would ask for any public comment. Is there anybody in the public who would like to speak in favor of this ordinance? Please feel free to let us know. I don't see anybody in the room, nobody on Zoom. Seeing nobody, with public comments in favor, are there any public comments in opposition? Still seeing none, I would entertain a motion to close the public input portion of the public hearing.
Councilmember Johnson moves to close the public input portion of the public hearing.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. All were in favor. At this time, we were in deliberation. It is second reading. There have been no changes. This is an opportunity for council discussion on this. I would say from the very beginning, when I first heard this proposed by Melko Yerman, I thought it is so simple, but so helpful in terms of being able to draw the lot lines after the building is built. And that's the crux of this ordinance change. And it just, I think it makes a huge difference to anybody trying to build and subdivide, as it were, a property around shared wall units. Any other discussion? In which case I would entertain a motion, please.
Ordinance to adopt ordinance number 11, series of 2022. An ordinance adding a new chapter 16.22 to an amending chapter 16.28 of Title 16. The municipal code concerning townhouse, condominium, and building footprint lot subdivisions on second reading.
Luna, seconds.
Is there any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Green,
Yes.
Councilmember Grant,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yeah.
Councilmember Lorenzen,
Yes.
Councilmember Luna,
Yes.
Councilmember Hill,
Yes.
Mayor Lund.
Yes. Okay, next up, we have ordinance number 12. This is first reading. We're not going to go through a public hearing. If anybody in the public has input on this, we're glad to hear it. But we'll see if they do or they don't. This is it's before City Council for consideration. Ordinance 12, series of 2022 amends the city municipal code to allow for Planning and Zoning Commission members and Historic Preservation Commission members to receive meeting stipends set by City Council. You will notice we don't actually put the stipend amount in there. We'll do that by resolution after the first of the year. And therefore we could change that stipend as we see fit by resolution rather than go through a code change. I think that we all have pretty much agreed that this was something we wanted to do. We have not done it for City Council yet because it would not have been applicable in 2023. It will, however, be applicable in 2024, and so we will have to deal with that issue probably, I think, by August before the election, so that anybody running for office knows what that stipend will be for an elected official. This time, is there any questions or discussion relative to this ordinance change?
So for a year, the members of HPC get a larger stipend than anyone on city council does.
No, I think it's the same.
Yeah, they would get the same.
It's the same stipend.
Really? $85.25 twice in a month?
It's $200 a month. Yes,
That's not what I get paid.
I know that, but the government gets part of yours. Was that your comment?
That's it.
Okay, good.
I would have to say I'm in support of this. It's a good step. I mean, it just doesn't work out for like city council right now, which is fine. Like, it's the right step in the right direction. We need folks to get some sort of remuneration for their serving on these types of commissions. And so this is a good step in the right direction.
Agreed.
Okay, at this time, I would entertain a motion on first reading.
Councilmember Borgensi moves to adopt ordinance number 12 series of 2022. In ordinance amending section 20.48.020 of the local municipal code, adding new sections 2.36.080 and 2.48.060 to permit members of the planning and zoning commissions and the historic preservation commission to receive meeting stipends approved by the city council on first reading. I further move to schedule a second reading of this ordinance for the city's regular meeting on January 17th, 2023.
Thank you for that catch.
Bill seconds.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lumberland,
Yes.
Councilmember Graham,
Yes.
Councilmember Burgess,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Green,
Yes.
Councilmember Phil,
Yes.
Councilmember Levinson,
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Next up, we have the public meetings planner. I'd like to remind everybody, on Thursday of this week, we have an LURA meeting. It should be very brief. We have to pass the budget, LURA budget. I think there's one other thing on there, but I don't remember what it was, but they're both very brief. And so I'm thinking 10-15 minutes tops, but we do need a quorum, so everybody who can pop, and it's all Zoom, it'll all be Zoom. So anybody who could possibly tune in and get us through that, I would appreciate it.
Mayor, considering it's gonna be about -34 degrees Fahrenheit, I'm probably going to cancel the year trip, so can I get that calendar invite resent?
Yes,
to Laura, please?
yes.
And I will join.
Mayor,
No.
can you give us the time and location of that one again?
It is 6 o'clock. It's a Zoom meeting. We'll make sure that invitation is resent to everybody, just a good reminder.
For this Thursday.
This coming Thursday. Yes, that is correct.
Tracy has her hand up.
Tracy, yes, please.
I just wanted to reiterate how important it is to have a quorum because I got a notice today that the representative for St. Vincent's is no longer on the board. And so we are in the middle of finding somebody else to represent St. Vincent Hospital.
Okay, thank you. Tracy, is a quorum 6?
11, yes, 6, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. And then, of course, City Hall being closed all of next week. Any other corrections to the meetings plan?
But just say, administrative closed, obviously, streets, fire, police. Those folks are still working.
There is a RHA meeting on the 29th. Housing authority meeting,
On the 29th?
yes.
Really?
Yep. We had
Wow.
to reschedule due to multiple members not being able to make certain dates, and that's I think we landed on.
What time is that going to be?
I think
6 o'clock.
And is that just Zoom?
It's on the library, in their open meeting area.
Gotcha. Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Next up, we have the mayor's report, and Councilmember Fagenti had asked what I hope we can accomplish, and I've had a very short list. I've had a list of things I wanted to do in the last 2.5 years. There were 6 things on the list. There are only 2 really significantly left. One of them is housing. And so
What?
housing. So 809 Spruce is one housing solution. The 12 units at the rail yards is another one. And the housing authority is working on, a wide range of other possibilities. So I would say my wish list won't be completed. It won't be substantial housing in place, but I think we've done everything we possibly can to put ourselves in a position to solve the housing solutions It might take 5 to 10 years. I get that. I understand that. But that is one of the things that's on my list. The other one is transportation and the shuttle system. And I'm not sure what the status is exactly. We had the study done. And the county kind of took over, that effort, and I appreciate that very much. I mean, they've done a good job. But we have now the transportation study. So I need to check in with Commissioner Marcella and see where we are with, that was a 5304 grant. It was a study grant. Now, the next applications will be 5310 and 5311 applications for the actual equipment and the operators. And, and it could be a wide variety of dispatchers, mechanics, all those different things that could be part of these CDOT grants. But I am going to be one pleased human being if we finally have a shuttle system this next summer.
Right, I would say, and this is something to consider too, and I know it's gonna be outside of the current parameters of the shuttle system. We, Ski Cooper, I think their season pass has been 30% this year or something.
Wow.
And, meaning that they're, and I'm putting on my National Forest System hat on right now, but it's not our requirement to provide parking on National Forest System lands, right? So if in fact that they're starting to blow out their parking, they're going to be for their master development, they're submitting a master development plan that would expand their comfortable carrying capacity by about 100%.
100%, 200,000 visits a year.
Per day, a comfortable carrying capacity is up per day.
That's right.
Right. And so what that means is numbers of seats, the ability to flush toilets, it's down the line. That said, they may need to start looking at shuttle systems for their guests. And if that's the case, it's really difficult to get a permit for that type of delivery on National Forest System lands, right? It's like a whole nother process to do so, and it would really work well if they had a shuttle service. So I'm just saying, perhaps look to external partners besides the city and county when it comes to this, and think of the future where, and it would only be in the winter time anyway.
Are you talking about third party?
No, I'm
Transportation network?
I'm just saying that, like, if you're already going out to that Mountain View West subdivision, there could be an opportunity to make it so it's value added.
Yeah.
Beyond to Ski Cooper.
That has been discussed in our conversations, and one of the reasons it's been discussed is many years ago, and so people who have lived here all their lives, Donna might remember, they used to have a bus that ran to Ski Cooper every day.
That's how I got to work.
Did you? Yeah. So I think it's not only a good idea, I think it's something we absolutely should try to do.
It's just a great way to, even if there was parking within either a city center or have a debate recreation center, right? That would be fantastic. Make it so there's connectivity.
You heard it, Chris. No.
Anyways,
I'm
just saying, I mean, I know that this is a great first step. I'm just saying. Holistically, there's other.
I think we're thinking bigger than that, but I think we need to establish just a transportation network that is manageable and grow from there.
Just one thing to update on that. So the county is pursuing money for this, and the good news is that they were awarded so I'm trying to find the numbers here. Right, so Lake County Transit Implementation, a total of $1.34 million, about $760,000 from the state and $275,000 from Bolter State. So the program, I know the last update we got from the consultant was that the study was finished, but now we need the money to implement it. And so I know the county has applied for other grant money. And they were looking at either getting grant money for the buses or just purchasing a bus.
I will tell you, in the meetings we have, this is going back 3 years, COVID kind of put the brakes on it. But we had a great group of people here from all around the state trying to help us, and CDOT, the guy from CDOT was saying, we've got equipment that's sitting unused, that if you get this going, you can have it. I mean, literally, they were chomping at the bit to give us equipment.
They were basically begging us to get this into place in any way we could as soon as we could.
I would agree. So maybe I'll follow up with Commissioner Marcella, because I don't know if she was involved in that conversation or if she remembers it. But there could be potential, rather than even considering buying a piece of equipment, that according to this guy, they have some of these grants that have been given in the past where they're not being used appropriately, and they'll be glad to divert them. Anyway. So those are the two big things on the wish list. Okay. How many city council reports?
You want a nice list?
No. There's coal in that box.
I was gonna say Santa still comes if you're naughty, but you get coal.
You're gonna need it in 2 days.
You can't burn chocolate all that well, right? Okay. Any other city council reports?
Yeah, the Lore Board, I know we worked on those 12 units, still looking for people to apply for those units. I do contract work for them, on an as needed basis to convince people to get them, and I'm having some success. But there's still plenty of openings, so if you know of anyone who is interested, who works here or lives here, or wants to work here and live here, they can get that process started as anytime they want, and hopefully by the time that those buildings are here, they are eligible by the requirements of working and living, or through any other requirements that they have to go through to apply and receive the housing. So know anyone interested in moving in, they can always start the process even if they don't currently work or live here.
So once those homes are built, one of the things that we had talked to read about is, would you consider renting to people who were working on getting, all their financing in place? And he said yes. So it's just something else to think about.
It's still a possibility. Obviously, it's not the preferred method, but if that's the situation, they're more than happy to.
Okay, thank you. Any other council reports? Well, thank you all very much. Merry Christmas.
Great, and happy holidays.
And happy holidays, and it is 7:36. And we are adjourned.
When's the last time we ended this?
You going off like that.
I don't think it ended this early in a long time.
No, it has been a while, hasn't it?